Hello and welcome to Wavescan, the international DX program from Adventist World Radio. Researched and written by Adrian Peterson in Indianapolis and produced in the studios of WRMI Shortwave in Miami. I'm Jeff White. Today on Wavescan, Adventist World Radio, the dedication ceremony on Guam. Focus on Africa, the story of the torn QSL card, and our Japan DX report. On Tuesday, September 3rd, Adventist World Radio welcomed a group of international and local guests to a rededication ceremony at our Guam shortwave station to mark the completion of a major expansion for the station. The modification of existing antenna systems and the installation of a large new curtain antenna has increased the transmission capability of station KSDA by approximately 25%. And this is comparable to adding a whole new station to the AWR operation. This upgrade enables AWR to improve its broadcast to numerous countries in Asia in several ways, thus enabling the choice of more suitable frequencies in order to reach target audiences, the capability of scheduling simultaneous broadcasts to multiple countries, thus reaching listeners during their peak listening times, and the availability of more options to move our scheduling according to propagation conditions. The theme at the dedication ceremony was From This Tiny Island to the World. During the afternoon ceremony, the Honorable Eddie Basa Calvo, Governor of Guam, stated, "As I look at where Guam is located, and I see the map of Adventist World Radio and where it reaches, you're looking at nearly 3 billion people. It is about spreading the good news. I congratulate you all and give thanks for all you're doing. Adventist World Radio is a voice and a message for eternity." The official opening ceremony was held on the antenna field at the base directly under the newest tower, and this enabled attendees to experience close-up the massive size of this equipment. Phase 1 of the expansion, which took place last year, involved the relocation of one of the existing towers in order to accommodate the replacement of a low-frequency antenna with a higher-frequency antenna. The second and final phase consisted in the erection of a new tower together with the installation of a new high-frequency curtain antenna. This final phase was even more labor-intensive as it required staff to move countless tons of soil, fill in a steep ravine, bury 4-foot diameter runoff culverts for erosion prevention, pour more than 800 tons of concrete, and erect a 229-foot tower. The average size of the station's curtain antennas is 236 by 260 feet, which is approximately the size of 2 football fields. During the construction of the antenna systems, some broadcasts were transferred to commercial shortwave stations in Sri Lanka and Europe for several months so that listeners could still receive an uninterrupted program service. The president of Adventist World Radio, Dr. Dal Chow, stated, "This project was completed in the record time of only 2 years. Enormous appreciation goes to our staff on Guam, as well as to others who were heavily involved in the entire project." As Chief Engineer Brooke Powers stated, "The weather was a huge factor, as all construction work had to be completed during Guam's 6-month-long dry seasons." The president of the Adventist denomination, Elder Ted Wilson, also paid tribute when he stated, "AWR Guam and AWR itself are not only in the information business, we are in the inspiration business." Currently, Adventist World Radio is on the air worldwide in nearly 100 languages, with programming produced in 75 different production studios. The shortwave station on Guam, KSDA, is itself on the air with nearly 300 hours of programming each week in 34 languages, from its technical system of 5 shortwave transmitters and 5 curtain antennas. We're going to hear an identification now, a sign-off announcement actually, from KSDA. It was recorded by Scottish DXer Mark Borthwick, 7,317 miles from Guam, and he posted it on YouTube.
From the beautiful Pacific island of Guam, this is Adventist World Radio, the voice of hope. Now concluding our educational and inspirational programs at 100,000 watts. This station is owned and operated by Adventist Broadcasting Services, Incorporated, and is part of the Adventist World Radio Network of international broadcast stations. On behalf of the staff and management of Adventist World Radio, I'm Greg Scott, thanking you for joining us.
Wavescan presents Focus on Africa, a year-long series of reports about shortwave broadcasting and listening on the African continent. The story of the torn QSL card takes place in Africa, in two countries in the central areas towards the bottom of the continent, in both Botswana and South Africa. Originally, Botswana was known as Bechuanaland, and these two names mean country of the Tswana. Bechuanaland, or Botswana, is a landlocked country surrounded by almost half a dozen other independent countries. Their population is around 2 million, and the capital city is Gaborone, a planned city that was first developed back in 1964. Gaborone lies close to the border with South Africa, less than 10 miles distant. The original inhabitants in Bechuanaland were the Bushmen, a small people who speak with an unusual clicking sound. The more populous Tswana tribals migrated into the area around 2,000 years ago. During the era of European colonial exploration, England established a protectorate over northern Bechuanaland in 1835, and they administered southern Bechuanaland as a crown colony. Northern Bechuanaland was granted independence as Botswana in 1966, though by this time southern Bechuanaland had already been absorbed into South Africa. The capital city for the Bechuanaland Protectorate in the British days was Mafeking, which was located not within its own country, but in neighboring South Africa, some 15 miles distant from the border. The official government offices for neighboring Bechuanaland were located within Mafeking in what was known as the Imperial Reserve. It was in the year 1936 that radio station ZNB was established in the building that was occupied by the Department of Education in the Imperial Reserve in Mafeking. This new radio station was on the air with 1/4 kilowatt on 5900 kilohertz as a communication facility for the government of Bechuanaland. The station was originally owned and established by the police department for radio communications throughout Bechuanaland. It was on the air with a point-to-point telephone service, with personal telegrams in Morse code, and with a flow of news items for publication in regional newspapers. Around that same era, a whole network of more than half a dozen communication radio stations was established throughout Bechuanaland, with ZNB Mafeking as the control station. Station ZNB operated at 250 watts, and the regional network stations operated on different channels with a power of usually 40 watts. The call signs of the regional stations all began with the two letters ZN, such as ZND at Lobatse, ZNF at Ganzi, and ZNG at Gaborone. Station ZNC was a 40-watt portable transmitter. In view of the fact that the key station in Mafeking was on the air under the call sign ZNB, it seems that there must have been a ZNA somewhere. We would presume that station ZNA must have been another communication station, which was established at some other location elsewhere in South Africa, though we have discovered no information about a station under this call sign. Back at the time when the ZNB transmitter was first installed, 1936, test transmissions were radiated, consisting of station announcements and the broadcast of music recordings. Letters of request for regular programming came in from many different areas, both within Africa and beyond, even as far away as the United States, Europe, and Japan. However, station ZNB soon encountered a problem regarding the broadcast of music due to copyright infringements, and so the broadcast of radio programming was discontinued. Due to the large response from listeners in the Bechuanaland areas, SABC, the South African Broadcasting Corporation, then took over the responsibility of programming over ZNB, and thus the broadcast of radio programming was reintroduced over this low-powered communication station. This reintroduced radio programming was made up of station announcements, local information, bulletins of news from SABC, and locally available music recordings. Thus, the station was on the air for the transmission of its originally intended communication traffic and in spare time, it was often on the air with a broadcast of entertainment and informational radio programming. Some of this radio programming was radiated at specifically scheduled times. Monitoring reports during the era of World War II indicate that the station was immensely popular, and it certainly did provide the fulfillment of a real need in the area. The station was often heard far afield when propagation conditions were good, and a multitude of QSL cards were issued in response to reception reports from listeners in many different countries in Europe, Asia, the Americas, and the Pacific. The regular channel of operation was usually 5900 kHz, slightly variable, though at times 8230 kHz was in use. The Indianapolis QSL collection holds several QSL cards verifying the reception of ZNB on 5900 kHz, though one card issued to a listener in Sweden is for reception on the alternate frequency 8230 kHz. A close study of the available QSL cards from ZNB Mafeking reveals that there were at least 5 different printings of this specific QSL card. The design for their slightly oversized QSL card, measuring 6 inches by 4 inches, is a large electric triangle with the inset of a small coat of arms stating Bechuanaland Protectorate. The card shows a 2-color printing in red and blue. The text on their first card in the late 1930s simply stated that they were acknowledging your report. However, in all subsequent printings of this now highly prized QSL card, the text was changed to read that they were verifying your report. The only additional differences in the 5 known printings of the one design show a slight displacement in the 2-color printing, red and blue. Now, as time went by, the popularity of the low-power broadcasts from ZNB Mafeking waned due to the increasing number of other stations on the shortwave bands. As a corrective measure, the preliminary intent was to install a higher-powered transmitter rated at 10 kilowatts. However, the increase in power was never implemented at ZNB Mafeking, and instead a new transmitter was installed at a new location under a new call sign. This new station, ZND, was inaugurated around the same time as work commenced on the building of a new capital city for the newly emerging nation. Thus, the program broadcasts from the communication station ZNB in Mafeking were terminated on September 30th, 1963, at the end of 27 years of unique radio history. The story of the torn QSL card? The ornately designed ZNB QSL card was a little larger than the regular postcards of the day, and in order to fit into the envelope for posting, the card was folded, thus making a fold mark down the middle of the card. Over time, some of these folded cards then tore into 2 pieces. We hold 2 cards that were originally folded in this way. One card is completely torn into 2 pieces, and another is partially torn at the fold mark. Now let's listen to the national anthem of Botswana, which carries the title, Our Land.
Listening to Wavescan from Adventist World Radio. Send your comments and reception reports to Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana 46229 in the United States. That's Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana 46229 in the USA. Or you can email us at wavescan@awr.org. Our email once again, wavescan@awr.org.
During the past 2 weeks here on Wavescan, we've brought you parts of a conversation I had with Jerry Plummer of WWCR at the recent High Frequency Coordination Conference in Bratislava, Slovakia. Today, part 3 of that conversation, we begin talking about some of the things we did in Bratislava outside of the conference hall. We took a sort of a walking tour of
Old Town, yeah. We got to mention
which is very interesting, isn't it?
Yes, it was, and there was a play there that we were able to sit and see, which I think was written in 1900, if I remember correctly. I would say 75 to 80 people at least attended. You know, the entire area was probably built between 1200 and 1600, and we got to see a lot of things, and we had people explain to us what was there, went to see the play.
Well, we saw an interesting photographic exhibition as well.
Sure did, 1968, you know.
Now, people have heard of the Prague Spring in 1968, when the Warsaw Pact, when the Russians basically invaded in Czechoslovakia. But many people don't realize that there was also a Bratislava Spring.
Ah, yes, there was, and we saw pictures of that, too. Coming, and it wasn't just the Soviets, it was, as you said, the Warsaw Pact that literally just swarmed the area.
And there's this one picture, it's like the most famous one, of a guy standing up in front of a tank.
Yes.
Which looked just sort of like Tiananmen Square.
It did.
Amazing.
Yeah, it did. It looked like Tiananmen Square 20-something years earlier, right? Yeah. That was certainly a good trip. That was certainly a good tour.
What else can we say about the conference here? It's been attended by about somewhere almost 100
about 100,
people
100 something like that.
40-some countries around the world.
So certainly if shortwave was declining, seems like our membership would be declining, but it's not. If anything, it's expanding, and that's a positive sign.
It was a good time here in Bratislava, the first time ever for HFCC in the Slovak Republic.
Sure was.
Next year, we're looking forward to the HFCC A14 conference, which will be in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
Yes, in KL, Malaysia again.
You've been to a few times?
Yes, I have. Yes.
And the B14, we don't know for sure yet, but Sofia, Bulgaria looks like a good possibility. For 2015, it's already pretty well worked out as well.
Yes.
The A15 hosted by the Arab States Broadcasting Union, and they have proposed Oman as a site. Muscat, Oman.
Muscat, that'll be our first time in Oman, if I believe. And what about Australia for the second half?
Boy, they've been trying to get the conference there for a long time now, haven't they?
They've really tried.
It's never been in Australia before.
Talking about Oman, maybe we could talk to Basil about that since he knows so much about that.
Basil Subi of the Arab States Broadcasting Union just happens to be passing by here.
Just happened to come in.
Now, Basil, the A15 conference is your hosting responsibility for the ASBU, but instead of doing it at your headquarters in Tunis, you have suggested a different location this time.
Yes, it is Muscat, a new place. In the winter, it will be warm place where people can enjoy the summer in the winter. And this is Oman is a conservative country, but make no mistake, it is very hospitable country, and they are happy to host the conference and meet lots of friends coming from different parts of the world. So it will be a good opportunity for everyone to visit the country and enjoy the hospitality there.
Oman is located exactly where?
Oman is located outside the Persian Gulf. It is on the Arab Sea, which is part of the Indian Ocean. So Oman is looking into in the open sea, looking into India, into Africa, and just south of to the east of Yemen. They have a vast climate zone. They have two climate zones. They have a zone where they have summer rain, which is called Salala. This is in the summer. It is the temperature is almost around 30 degrees, and a very touristic area during the summer. But Muscat during that period is sizzling hot.
And for the HFCC ASBU conference, I suppose it will probably be very well attended by the Arab broadcasters. No?
Definitely, yeah. We expect, when the meeting in the Arab countries, so we expect more of the Arab participants to be there.
Yes, thank you very much, Basil Subi of the Arab States Broadcasting Union. Well, Jerry, what more can we say? It's been a good week here.
It's been a good week,
and if we don't get going pretty soon, we're going to miss the continental reception that is being offered.
We certainly don't want to do that.
At the Czech restaurant, just around the corner here from the hotel.
Well, I'm glad I was able to have some guests, if you will. And thanks again for having me on, too, Jeff, as always. It's always a pleasure talking with you.
Well, it's been a pleasure to be here with Wavescan from this pleasant city of Bratislava, Slovakia. And we'll be telling you more about what happened here at the conference in future editions of Wavescan.
Exactly right. All right, thank you.
And I was talking there with Jerry Plummer, Dr. Jerry Plummer of WWCR in Nashville, Tennessee. We were at the High Frequency Coordination Conference in Bratislava, Slovakia.
Hello and welcome to the DX Report of the Month from Japan Shortwave Club, edited by Toshio Take, and I'm Yukiko Tsuji. The first topic is EDXC, the European DX Council 2013. This annual conference was held in Figueira da Foz, Portugal, from 6th to 8th of September, and participated by 30 people from 10 countries. On 9th, Monday, a bus carried us to Lisbon, and we visited RDP International and religious station Radio Renascença. All programs were coordinated by Mr. Mika Palo, a Finnish DXer living in Portugal, and everything was fantastic, and it was an enjoyable gathering. Nice, France was proposed as its 2014 conference site and approved. Next are DX reports from our club members this week. Radio Republic Indonesia from Palangkaraya was heard on 3325 kHz on September 8th, from 11:39 to 12:02 UTC in Indonesian. SIO rating was 222. Local songs and the talk program were aired, and ID was given at 1200. Voice of Russia from Irkutsk was received on 21800 kHz on September 7th, from 0800 to 0831 UTC in English. SIO rating was 454. News and the program titled Agree or Disagree were on the air. TWR India via Tashkent, Uzbekistan was heard on 12160 kHz on September 1st from 1401 to 1430 UTC in Hindi and English. SIO rating was 454. Religious talk was broadcast by English-speaking and Hindi-speaking announcers alternately. The station's postal address, web address, and email address were given by a female announcer at 1427. Radio Kuwait was heard on 21580 kHz on September 1st from 1035 to 1045 UTC in Tagalog. SIO rating was 453. Talk program and music were aired. Denge Kurdistani via Bulgaria was received on 11510 kHz on August 30th from 1815 to 1825 UTC in Kurdish. SIO rating was 453. Talk program was broadcast. Medium wave station KICY from Alaska, USA was heard on 850 kHz on September 10th from 1033 to 1100 UTC in Russian. SIO rating was 353 at the best. The religious program was aired. WTWW from Tennessee, USA was heard on 5085 kHz on September 1st from 1031 to 1103 UTC in English. SIO rating was 252, then up to 353. The Overcomer Ministry was relayed. This station was also heard on September 7th from 10:05 to 10:15 with SIO rating 453. Al Caravan Radio from Puerto Jiménez, Colombia was received on 5910 kHz on August 25th from 0905 to 0955 UTC in Spanish. SIO rating was 222. Local songs and the talk program were heard. ID was given at 0930 and 0940. Radio Santa Cruz from Bolivia was heard on 6135 kHz on September 8th from 0903 to 0918 UTC in Spanish. SIO rating was 232. Local songs and the talk program were on the air. ID was given at 0905 and 0914. Finally, Japan Shortwave Club will issue the QSL cards for the correct reports on our segment of Wavescan program. We are issuing QSL card by email to the report sent by email. Our address for your email report is jswcqsl@live.jp. I repeat, jswcqsl@live.jp. We continue to issue the printed QSL card by the same system as before. Your report should be addressed to JSWC PO Box 44, Kamakura, which is KAMAKURA, postal code 248-8691, Japan. $1 ILC or $2 for return postage will be appreciated. For this edition of DX Report, we would like to thank Mr. Yasuharu Tanabe, Mr. Iwao Nagatani, Mr. Shoichi Tamane, Mr. Tetsuya Toriumi, Mr. Mitsunori Kawazoe, Mr. Hirokazu Mitsumoto, and Mr. Satoshi Miyashita for sharing the information with us. Thank you for listening, and please join us for our next edition of DX Report of Japan Shortwave Club. I'm Yukiko Tsuji in Tokyo.
Thank you, Yukiko. Last week, Prithviraj Purkayastha in his Indian DX report mentioned a special DX test coming up in the DRM mode from PCJ Radio in Taiwan. This is actually from the transmitter in Trincomalee, Sri Lanka. It's taking place October 13th, but there have been some changes that Keith Perron of PCJ tells us. The transmission is from 10:30 to 11:30 UTC to Europe now. This is to Europe on 17560 kilohertz, 17560, with PCJ Radio News and a program called Jazz for the Asking. Then from 11:30 to 12:30 UTC, this DRM transmission will be beamed to Southeast and East Asia on the frequency of 15645 kilohertz, 15645, with PCJ Radio News, Switzerland in Sound with Bob Zanatti, and a program called Tropi Retro. Both of these on October 13th. Music from Slovakia, courtesy of Radio Slovakia International, ends this edition of Wavescan, the international DX program from Adventist World Radio. Researched and written in Indianapolis by Dr. Adrian Peterson. Next week on Wavescan, tribute to shortwave WYFR, Part 5, the Parade of New Call Signs. Our Philippine DX report, and DX news from Cuba and Poland. If you'd like a Wavescan QSL card, you can send your reception reports to Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46229, USA. That's Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46229, USA. You can email us at wavescan@awr.org. That's wavescan@awr.org. I'm Jeff White at WRMI in Miami. Till next week, good listening.